Hello, friends, homies, fam, internet strangers, secret crushes, and far lost co-workers. Welcome to Easily Entertained, whoever you are. I'm your host, Maddy McClain. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Post-Thanksgiving, in this case. My stomach still hurts slightly, but if I'm being real, that's just me totally not being real. Because I make a sport out of carbo loading. I'm no stranger to making a beautiful plate, designing it just so. And honestly, uh Thanksgiving food's not my favorite. I'm sorry. I wouldn't choose this food, at least this arrangement or selection of foods, foods for my own, like out of my own volition. I guess we do it in honor of the pilgrims and the, OG bullies, OG American bullies for pushing the weird kids out of the proverbial playground. I'm completely kidding, by the way, but what I'm not kidding about is my kind of low-key distaste of Thanksgiving food. Like, there's so much other shit that's far more American now. Like, we could always modernize, you know what I'm saying? Have like a feast of enchiladas, like Tex-Mex enchiladas and queso, with like a choice of chicken parm. So just like, a melting pot or I guess a little bit of cultural misappropriation across all cultures, See, settle, take, that kind of American thinking. But anyways, I won't be a total Thanksgiving Grinch about it because it ends up being a solid meal, but still not the one I would choose. You know what I'm saying? So I figured I'd go ahead and rank the Thanksgiving foods. And this is truth, this is Bible, this is the official ranking of Thanksgiving foods. So yeah, this is it. First, we'll start with the number one. That to me is mac and cheese. Okay. I mean, let's be real. Maybe it's from the priming of my childhood days and yours too, probably, of boxed mac and cheese, Kraft mac and cheese, which still hits. All right. It still bops. My adult go-to version now is Annie's, which I don't know why, but supposedly we're supposed to believe that it's maybe healthier for you. But you know what? That's fine. That's a lie I will tell myself because that lie just makes it go down nicer. You know what I'm saying? Like the TikToker who finds really creative food recipes that really are just like a call for help, just like a casserole of food poisoning. They'll put like raw meat, mix it with crackers, and she goes, "Everybody's so creative." I will tag her account in the show notes because if you haven't watched those videos, they're incredible. It's just making fun of people who are trying to be weirdly creative with food where creativity is not asked for. Yeah. Does anybody else get the meat ick? I've been getting this a lot lately. I don't know what it is. A lot of the times it's been chicken lately, but I'll just I'll go to Chipotle, right? Something I rarely do. That's a total lie. I love Chipotle. So Chipotle is my life. Anyways, and I just you get one bite of it or something. It could be steak, could be anything. And it's just like a gristly, gross, just a nasty piece of meat that tastes too much like meat. Like, I don't need to know or be reminded, really, about the realities of being a meat eater. You know what I mean? We've all seen those documentaries, okay? I still remember. You know the ones. This was way back in our youth's vegetarian propaganda videos called documentaries. Yeah. So where was I going with this? We're talking about meat icks. Yeah, I just get meat icks a lot. Anyways, back to the Thanksgiving ranking. Number one, mac and cheese, for sure. Now look, sometimes if you overdo the mac and cheese, you try and make it too homemade, you know what I'm saying? It's just tastes like a cafeteria. Um, so you really got to be whoever is in charge of the mac and cheese holds a grave responsibility and a duty that rivals that of American soldiers. You must be ready and you cannot mess it up. If you mess it up, oh, such a shame. Luckily, this year, my brother Matthew, who has been a guest on this podcast before, did us a great service and really knocked it out of the park. He did like a take on chicken spaghetti, if you know what that is, for mac and cheese. Anyways, it was delightful, delectable. Mac and cheese to me is like a Taurus, dependable, indulgent, luxurious, but very loyal and steadfast. Really stubborn to the love of lactose. You know what I'm saying? All right, so that's number one. Number two is stuffing. Stuffing's good. You can mess it up though. You really can. So and I sure as hell would. I'm no Michelin star chef, and I was mostly like a sous chef throughout Thanksgiving this year, which is usually the case for most years. Yeah, but obviously number two is stuffing. Stuffing's good. I don't eat that on an everyday basis or any other day basis, like I guess most people. So I will say that as a Thanksgiving food, I'm excited about, right? I'm there for it. Next, I would say green bean casserole. If mac and cheese is a Taurus, stuffing would be Libra. Everybody loves them. They're aesthetically pleasing. They're good. Green bean casserole, not for everyone, and it puts off this healthy vibe, but deep inside it's really just as bad for you as the mac and cheese or the stuffing is, once it's all said and done. So I denote green bean casserole a Sagittarius or maybe an Aquarius. No. Aquarius is cranberry sauce for sure. So we got mac and cheese, stuffing, green bean casserole. Now would be the time that I'd put in turkey and gravy mix. We're just putting them in as one. Dark meat obviously being number one, white meat being number two. I'm talking about turkey, you guys. And then from there, we got any whatever form of potato is on the table, mashed, au gratin, scalloped, smashed with some of the skin still on there. That's definitely preferred over just mashed, personally. And don't give me just roasted potatoes, okay? This is Thanksgiving. This is a lavish holiday. No. Yeah. Oh, and last place for me is cranberry sauce. What are you doing there? Like, Ariana, what are you doing here? Who invited you? Unclear. But it kind of grows on me. The more I just kind of, it does something, a little sweet and sour to it. Anyways, so that's the ranking of Thanksgiving foods. It is funny to me that one of the most American holidays outside of, I guess, July 4th, maybe, work with me here, we're going with it, is all about getting fat and happy and boozed up. You're watching, women are in the kitchen making you the dinner. Men are watching football and asking when the dinner's going to be ready. And why do we call it a dinner when we eat it at 4 p.m., huh? But I guess everybody does different things. Anyway, so speaking of really overdone, overplayed, like women in the kitchen, men like muscle man, like out in the wild capturing, I don't know, meats and such, brings us to good old Matt Rife, who I'm sure you may have heard about, may have not, but for those that haven't, I'll give you a quick little background on it because I think it does bring about a very interesting dialogue. So Matt Rife is a stand-up comedian who has been working in comedy for over like 10 years now. So he's not like new to the scene, but he's newly like propelled into popularity or whatever, mostly for his crowd work during his live sets that are put up as clips on TikTok. And he went like TikTok viral. And he has a very beautiful face. He's an attractive dude. He is. He's got the facial structure of, I mean, the Eiffel Tower, lots of dimension and lots of shape and like shit that could like cut and like sharpen a knife. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what I'm saying. So why would you? Anyways, but yeah, he's very beautiful. He's hot. Okay. So given that, and he really does have some very impressive kind of improv crowd worky stuff. And that's really all we've seen mostly on TikTok, but he's funny. Like he's funny. There's a reason that he's gone viral outside of his looks. And yes, that is a part of it. The reason I'm honing in on that right now is because he released his very first Netflix special called Natural Selection. And for any comedian, that is a huge, outstanding achievement, a big, like, momentous occasion, mayor cutting the ribbon, that would be ribbon, kind of level of a moment to remember, right? He decided to just simply take that and crumple it into a wad and throw it outside. I did the service, like any trustworthy, hardworking podcaster out there, to watch said special. And the reason it's gaining is not so great attention is because his opening joke is a domestic violence joke. First of all, before I even get into it, just know, don't worry, this isn't going to be a whole podcast like canceling Matt Rife or anything, because I think really another aspect of this whole scenario is what's most interesting and not the fact that like people are getting offended by a stand-up comedian's jokes, which inherently I feel like is pointless and dumb and like anyways, like if you're easily offended, just don't maybe venture into stand-up comedy, I guess. And I think that the whole we're not allowed to make jokes anymore is overdone as well. So I think people just need to like chill the fuck out across the board. He had this interview and he spoke about how he wanted Natural Selection, which is his Netflix special, to appeal to both men and women, since his social media videos often cater more to a female audience. One of the biggest misconceptions of things I get ridiculed online for is people are like, oh, he only has a female fan base, Rife said. In the beginning, yes, because I did blow up on TikTok, which is very female dominant. So I get that perspective. But when you come to the shows, I mean, it's 50-50. It's couples coming out. It's groups of dudes who are coming. And that's one thing that I wanted to tackle in the special was showing people that, like, despite what you think about me online, I don't pander my career to women. He continues, I would argue this special is way more for guys. I wanted to make this special for everybody. I pride myself on making my comedy for everybody. It's not for a specific demographic. Ugh, niche down, bitch. Niche down. That was me, the niching. I think if people would just give it the chance without going into it and being like, oh, only girls like him or people only like his face. If you give it an opportunity, I think you'd like it. Okay, so now that we have that context, that's kind of what's more interesting to me. The joke was essentially, and it was a starting joke. The joke is essentially about him, Rife, and his friend like go into this restaurant, or I believe it was, and the hostess had a black eye. This girl had a black eye, and it was a joke of like, oh, why would they put her out here with a black eye? And like, oh, well, maybe she'd be back in the kitchen, and if she were good at it, she wouldn't have the black eye. Like the standard like joke, like women are good in the kitchen. Do that or you won't get hit. That's the joke that he gave. And honestly, to me, it's just like not creative, like that's been, it's kind of been the whole thing for like all of time until kind of recently and even still. Anyways, so what's most interesting to me is honestly the female male audience switch up that he's trying to do here, and not so much the domestic violence joke, What I'm poorly articulating right now is just, I think it is wildly ironic that this man is trying to pander to a male audience because he doesn't want to be hold down as just hot, and so just like eye candy for women and only have a women audience. So how does one attract all the men in his eyes? Tell domestic violence jokes and just the whole thing be misogynistic and just the entire thing sound like Josh from SA's like frat meeting speech to the bros, like that's pretty much what it was. It's like just so layered because the whole pretty privilege thing, the fact that he's like hot and attractive, and he's trying to be like, I'm not just a pretty face, and like, trying so hard to get out of this scenario where he feels like the opposite sex only sees him as like this object, just this hot guy and not being taken seriously. When that sounds awfully similar to what women always have experienced, is being treated differently and not being taken seriously because they have like a pair of titties. His response to it was he put up a story on his Instagram that was like, please click this link if you feel offended by any of my stand-up. And you click it and it's like a link to helmets for like babies. Haha. I don't know. So of course that pissed off the people that were already like super pissed off, but I don't think like this is the end for him by any means. And in fact, he was just named a Forbes 30 under 30 that came out this week, only a few days ago. So the Forbes 30 under 30 is very interesting because it is a mix of things. It's both descriptive and vague on their website about what exactly the qualifications are to make said Forbes 30 under 30, but it's a mixture of like social impact, creativity or uniqueness to what they're bringing to society. Financials is a big one and all that kind of thing. And it's 30 people under each like individual category. So let me just read you all the categories there are because I didn't realize there were this many, honestly. Obviously, there is media and entertainment, which was what Matt Rife was nominated under, or sorry, Hollywood and entertainment, including our girl Jenna Ortega from Wednesday Addams, as well as you. She is only 21. I didn't realize she was that young. Another person you might recognize is Haley Lou Richardson from White Lotus, who played the assistant to everyone's favorite Jennifer Coolidge character. And one thing that I thought was hilar is there are a few other comedians nominated, and it'll have like their age and then their title or whatever. Like Haley Lou Richardson is actor. This guy Mecky Leeper is comedian, and Matt Rife is comedian, comma TikTok, which I just thought was a chuckle and a half. But yeah, once you're voted or nominated as a Forbes 30 under 30, you cannot be voted again. So that's why it's not like a Grammys or an Emmys kind of award. And you'd be like, well, where's everybody else that we're always talking about? They're not there. But the other categories are art and style, retail and commerce, healthcare, consumer technology, marketing and advertising, sports, energy, science, media, music, social media, as opposed to media, manufacturing and industry, social impact, finance, food and drink, venture capital, education, enterprise technology, and games. That's a lot of categories. A few fun numbers is altogether this year, or 2024's noms, represent over $3.6 billion of funding raised, which is pretty incredible, and over 780 million plus followers on social media. And yeah, so I don't think Matt Rife is suffering that hard. In fact, I'm sure it just drove so many more people to watch his special anyway, but it was a very interesting discourse, to what's going on, because alongside that kind of thing, we have Travis Kelce's resurfaced tweets. And don't worry, it's not what you think, and thank God. We just one less popular man being canceled, but don't worry, there's another one to replace that we'll talk about. But pretty halarlar, Travis Kelce had his tweets from when it was 2011 or something, and it's all about him like, oh, a squirrel just ate a nut! Exclamation mark, cool. And things like that. So that was a great thing to see, as soon as we saw those headlines, like, well, something had to happen with Taylor's love life, but things seem to be going in a good direction. I mean, don't worry, you'll know every next move on People Magazine or Us Weekly or this podcast, because it'll literally be like, oh my God, Taylor and Travis ate cereal for breakfast, we think, because they threw away a cereal box in their trash cans. I don't know. On a much more serious note, though, a really, really sad tragedy went down at one of Taylor Swift's Rio concerts in Brazil. So there was super, super hot temperatures. They're experiencing, like most of the globe, and much of the globe rather, crazy, crazy climate change induced dramatic weather. Temperatures reached 95 degrees Fahrenheit, but the heat index was nearly 139 degrees Fahrenheit with humidity and other climate factors considered. So the heat index is more of a representation of what it feels like outside. So that is insane hot, crazy hot. And they're packed into this big venue. I believe it's a soccer stadium, and everything is general admission. So people are waiting for hours and hours outside in the sweltering heat. And then once they get in, still waiting for hours and hours, they weren't allowed to bring water inside the stadium, which awful. And if you could get water, it was rare, hard to get to, and cost a lot of money. It was very expensive. Reportedly, there was also blocking of ventilation going on, just unsafe all around production, and putting these people in really, really scary temperatures and not providing them water. And sadly, this led to a death of Ana Benavides Machado, who was only 23 years old. And kind of early on in Taylor's set, she passed out. They took her outside for medical attention. She was taken to a hospital where she died and succumbed to the devastation that the heat was taking on her body. And supposedly lots of people were passing out left and right. You can literally see videos of Taylor stopping the concert in the middle, throwing water into the crowd after crowds are chanting agua. It's horrifying. Just a really scary situation. Later on in her last show in Brazil, Ana Benavides' family took a picture with Taylor, and they're all wearing shirts with Ana's face on it. And, they don't blame Taylor. And I can't imagine just knowing that happened at her concert. I'm sure that was horrible. And she had, I believe, rescheduled and moved the concert to the next day to the following Monday for obvious reasons and to let temperatures cool down. But she is back in the US and supposedly with Travis Kelce, because that the paparazzi are definitely looking out for that. So, and she has taken home the top global Spotify Wrapped Artist of the Year for 2023, because Merry Christmas, ho, ho, ho. It is Spotify Wrapped season, and I personally love that shit. I love it. And I do enjoy seeing what other people's top Wrapped artists and songs are. I feel like you can learn a lot about a person. You really can. I'm feeling better this year because Diplo's no longer my number one. It's Drake. So it's not, that's still pretty basic and a little only slightly shameful. I kid. I love Drake. I am not afraid. I ain't afraid. Yeah. Followed by Elderbrook and a lot of other like Fred again and artists like that. If you wanted to know, because now you do. And I did that against your will. So apologies for that. But yeah, so check out Spotify Wrapped. I'm not sponsored, but it's really fun. Another reason why Spotify is the superior music app out there. Like, if you're not using Spotify, what are you doing? I feel like at work, back when I was sitting in an office 9 to 5, sometimes I would do Pandora just because I didn't want to log into my shit on my work laptop. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, that's neither here nor there. Next for you is a bit of news that is been breaking and kind of adding new developments to it on the daily, really. But fair warning, trigger warning here, going to talk about things like sexual assault, and that is, if that's triggering for you, probably skip forward. But this is about the major serious allegations and the lawsuit that Cassie, the pop singer and former girlfriend of P. Diddy, has filed against him. Vehemently denied these allegations and said so through his lawyer and all of that. But okay, now that that's out of the way and this is all alleged, it's pretty huge. It's very shocking, and it is really hard to hear. It really is. It's awful. But we would be remiss if we didn't talk about this, because this is huge. I mean, when any kind of pop culture icon or, famous celebrity that's been in the zeitgeist or what have you for so long is accused of something like this, or a really nasty past that nobody knew about is uncovered, it's a lot. It's a lot. So this is on the heels of New York's what is called Adult Survivors Act. And this is a year-long period where anybody that has been a victim of sexual assault or abuse or rape is able to come forward, despite if the statute of limitations, meaning how many years have gone by, even if that's expired. So for a period of a year, people in New York could come forward and file those lawsuits, even if it happened over the statute of limitations timeframe. So Cassie sued P. Diddy on November 16th with a wide range of rape, assault, and abuse allegations dating back to 2006 when the two began dating, and after Cassie signed on to Diddy's label Bad Boy Records. And they dated up until 2018, so about 12 years of endured abuse. And this, again, is all alleged, but her filing claims his controlling behavior started when they met in 2005, and after she signed a deal, that a pattern of abuse began when she was just 19 years old. She alleges sex trafficking, human trafficking, sexual battery, sexual assault, and gender-motivated violence, among other causes of action. The details get even worse, and when you hear all about it, it is completely awful. So he essentially had control over everything in her life, from her car, her clothing, and even reportedly her medical records, to keep her under his thumb. And he had her essentially also be pimped out to male sex workers, where he would film and sit there and watch. And this supposedly happened all the time, and they called these freak-offs, and it would happen at like random hotels and shit. And he supplied copious drugs to keep her, unable to really defend herself and to stay under his power and his control. And he also would threaten her just all the time, violently, mentally, emotionally, physically, you name it. There was even an instance that's alleged in the lawsuit where Cassie had briefly dated Kid Cudi, like back when Diddy and Cassie were on a break, and he threatened to blow up Kid Cudi's car and if she kept seeing him. And days later, wouldn't you know, Kid Cudi's car did indeed blow up in his driveway. And Kid Cudi actually confirmed this too, separately on his own account. The lawsuit also, interestingly, implicates his companies. And he owns tons of companies, kind of, parent company to Bad Boy Records and others, for being complicit, basically. So his crew and his bodyguards witness the abuse, the violent physical abuse against Cassie, and didn't say anything, didn't alert authorities, didn't help her, and also pretty much helped wrangle her back under Diddy's control if she ever tried escaping. There was even an instance where they were staying at a hotel and Cassie tried to get away from him after having a black eye, and there was an instance where Cassie was trying to run away and get away from P. Diddy at his hotel room because she has a black eye, and he's throwing glass vases at her, like in the hotel corridor. And obviously there's cameras in the hotel, so this is all captured on footage. But reportedly, he paid off the hotel $50,000 to erase that footage of the abuse. So shit gets really, really awful, and there's so many other details in this lawsuit that just show a horribly messed up, insane, terrible textbook abuser. So that is horrible and really brave of Cassie to come forward, and it just continues to really spiral down from there, in terms of just how P. Diddy responds. We don't hear too much about him. He hasn't said much outside of through his lawyer. But what he has said by not speaking speaks volumes, because not even a full 24 hours later, they reached a settlement. And initially his lawyers have been like, oh, we've been, threatened essentially by Cassie wanting $30 million, like Mr. Combs denies this. But they must have seen the details of the allegations in this lawsuit and probably known what kind of proof and evidence that Cassie has, and that probably plenty of other people have. So yeah, they ended up settling for an undisclosed amount, and less than 24 hours later, and I mean, P. Diddy claims they amicably settled or whatever, but to me, that screams guilt. People saying that are in the music industry that this is really just the tip of the iceberg, that there are plenty of other victims of P. Diddy's, and I believe it. There were 2 more lawsuits that were filed before the Adult Survivors Act expired by one plaintiff, Joy Dickerson Neal, who, quote, accused Mr. Combs of drugging her during an evening out in New York when she was on break from Syracuse University, where she was a student. She was eventually driven to a place Mr. Combs was staying, where he raped her and recorded the encounter on a video. And then the third lawsuit was filed by Jane Doe, alleging the same kind of situation, but both by Diddy and another R&B singer-songwriter named Aaron Hall. So all of this had come out, and unclear as to where those second and third lawsuits are going to go, but P. Diddy has since stepped down from Revolt, his media company, and lots of other celebrities, people that know him, including bodyguards, have spoken out since, including a bodyguard that was named, his name was Roger, in the lawsuit, that just corroborated Cassie's story and said he witnessed plenty of times where Cassie was viciously assaulted, including being stomped on. Like, what? And really crazy shit like that. So, I don't know, it's not looking good. I mean, it's heavy shit. It's very heavy, but I hope that he gets what's coming for him and justice is served, because I mean, I believe her, you know? So that is what's going down lately. And people are, this part is not, you know, confirmed or whatever, but kind of hearsay that's going down too, a little bit separately, is that potentially, you know, all of this craziness can date back to when Bad Boy and P. Diddy was working with Notorious B.I.G., and that maybe he had something to do with Tupac's murder and ordered a hit. And like, he's always just been this shady, evil character, essentially. But yeah, and remember too, there was a show where he was like essentially trying to put together a girl group, and that's how Danity Kane came about. Well, and Aubrey O'Day was a singer from there. They're saying that he tried to like give them a ton of drugs and pimp them out as well. And Aubrey O'Day has publicly disliked P. Diddy for years and years. So, I mean, they're saying they believe Cassie and they support her. When you have all these people corroborating and supporting it, like, it all comes from somewhere, you know? So we'll just see what else unfolds from there. But there is more justice being served, as earlier this week, Alex Murdaugh from Murdaugh Murders. Before I even get into this one update, there is so much history and crazy shit that goes behind the Murdaugh family and the murders, and a really criminal history of Alex Murdaugh and probably his father and his father's father and all of that. But there's so much detail that there's no way that I can cover all of that right now. So do know that there are on Netflix, I think that documentary, I think it's called like Murdaugh Mysteries or something like that. The one on Netflix, that one is the best and has the most detail in it. And in terms of podcasts, Murdaugh Murders podcast, which is now True Sunlight, by Maddy McClain, has by far and large the best and the most comprehensive info on this trial and this case. But I can do like a For Dumb Bitches version and not have like 30 million episodes like they have, if you guys are interested. So I'll ask this too on Instagram. But if you're interested in a deep dive of the Murdaugh murders and beyond, holler at me. I'm happy to do that. I love true crime, like many basic bitches before me and among me. Anyways, but the latest here. So Alex Murdaugh has already been sentenced to 2 life sentences for the murders of his own wife and son. That was wild. There's so much that goes beyond that, but he's guilty as hell, in my full opinion. And what a huge aspect of finding him guilty and kind of the reason behind why he murdered, at least, you know, the why that the prosecution, namely Creighton Waters and his legal team, alleged against Alex Murdaugh was because he had been running these whole other separate crazy financial schemes out of the law office that he worked under, and then his dad and family before him had owned, and was stealing millions and millions of dollars from his own clients to pay for his own shit, like millions of dollars. And in the case of Gloria Satterfield, which also really helped break open the case, this was their family housekeeper, but also kind of babysitter, like basically helped raise his 2 sons, like, you know, many rich Southern families have. But she tragically passed away and basically sued himself because she worked for the Murdaughs, and then her surviving sons never saw a single dime, and it was millions of dollars. So like that just shows like the surface of the depravity of this dude. Like crazy audacity. Wild. How he never thought this would ever come out. Beyond me. The reason being his financial crimes. He's trying to cover all this up, and then his son got into a boat wreck that killed a young girl named Mallory. Like, you see, this is all crazy. He has just been accused and been tried for those separate over 24 state charges of financial crimes. And on top of that is now serving 27, or been sentenced to 27 years in prison on top of the 2 life sentences. So he won't see the light of day for a long time, and that is a win. So more justice being served. Again, if you want more detail instead of that chaotic, just quick overview for this update, let me know. And that is all I have for you this week. It is so good to be back. I simply couldn't stay away. So here I am talking to you again, you lovely little bitches. Thanks for listening. As always, I am so appreciative for you. If you can, give me a follow. And if you liked this episode or this podcast, please leave me a review and follow on Instagram at Easily Entertained Pod. We have so much more exciting shit in line coming up for us, including guests, I promise, and some fun stuff, some giveaways, and, you know, all that shindiggery. So thanks for listening. You know what to do. And I guess that is keep it classy, stay cool, stay humble. I don't know what else I got for you, but yeah, till next week. Bye, homies.